In today's video, I want to talk to you about narcissism. What is narcissism? What qualifies as narcissism? And are you one? Why people become narcissists? What are the 5 most common types of narcissists? So that way you can identify them if you maybe have some in your friends, maybe you're dating one, or maybe in your family. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. It's because I was worried that I was a narcissist. When I think about narcissism, I felt like I saw in myself. A lot of the research that I do is because I'm curious about these things for myself. So what is narcissism? This was characterized as a personality disorder. These are people that think a lot of themselves, that are grandiose, that want attention, etc. But when we really dive in, it looks like there are certain specific pathological traits that are exhibited time and time again. And these are a few of them: entitlement, grandiosity, lack of empathy, validation seeking, and a hypersensitivity to criticism. Entitlement in this regard, these are people that feels like the world owes them something, like they have unrealistic expectations and that people should automatically comply with their wishes. So that's this type of entitlement. When it comes to this grandiosity, this is an obsession with unlimited power and success. Interpersonally exploitative, which is just another word of saying manipulation. This is using people to get what you want, being able to charm or lie, cheat, steal. These are things you're working to pull on people's emotions in order to get you something better for yourself. And the last one is lack of empathy. And this is pretty straightforward. This means these people often they lack the self-awareness and don't associate with other people's emotions. And lack of emotion, this is an unwillingness to identify or recognize other people's emotions. If you're feeling like you exhibit some of these traits, don't sweat it. Apparently what the research shows is everybody exhibits some of these qualities sometimes. If you exhibit some of these in certain circumstances, that's totally normal. The difference is that for a narcissist, it's going to be pathological, which means this is going to be a reoccurring thing over a long period of time. A lot of my research is based off of both what I found online, but mostly from the book Don't You Know Who I Am by Dr. Ramani Durvasula. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. It's an incredible book, and she is an expert in narcissism. So after listening to interviews with her and reading her book, that's where most of this research is coming from. The second big piece to narcissism is why. How do people get like this in the first place? In Dr. Ramani's book, she says the cause of narcissism isn't known directly. She has a feeling that it breaks down into a couple core different factors. These are individual or your biological. This is going to be your family, genetics as well, and then your community and society as a greater whole. And these kind of 4 things are the biggest influences that determine whether or not someone develops these qualities. What Dr. Ramani says is that as an individual, we're actually born as little mini narcissists because we don't have that sense of awareness yet, right? It's everything, our needs all the time. We're incredibly selfish. We learn over time that other people have emotions, that we aren't the center of the universe, that we can't always get what we want. Narcissism isn't necessarily something that you grow into, but more something that you grow out of, that we're all born little pargy narcissists, and then over time, we develop the emotional awareness to be better human beings. The second piece of environment, or what creates a narcissist, is family. When it comes to family, it looks like there are actually 2 different ends of the spectrum that tend to create narcissistic qualities more often. The first one is neglect. Those are parents that are just not around, maybe abusive, no go. The other one, though, is parents that are overly protective, over pampering, that are going to spoil the kids. These are the helicopter parents. Because if they're a narcissist, that means a lot of times they're externally validated, which means that they're externally motivated. So these are parents that then intrinsically kind of live life through their child. And you'll see this a lot with parents who want their kid to be a child star or want their kid to be famous. And so they end up being a bit emotionally abusive often towards the kid because they have these high expectations in order to feel fulfilled themselves. And that ends up causing a lot of emotional distress for the child. They end up exhibiting some of these traits as well. And so there's kind of 2 sides of the same coin: neglect and abuse, as well as over pampering. And that helicopter kind of parent can both be detrimental in their own way. a lot of kids as well do mirroring behavior, meaning you kind of do what you see. And so in that regard, if a parent is a narcissist and they exhibit some entitlement or don't you know who I am type of qualities, chances are the kid might adapt some of that as well. The last piece to why is community and society. And this is fascinating because Dr. Ramani breaks down community and society into kind of 3 different pieces of human motivation. We have affiliation, meaning our sense of belonging. We have achievement. This is whether or not we are able to accomplish our goals. That's another piece of a motivation. And the third piece of a motivation is power. This is competitiveness, winning, building, having control over others. And so those are kind of the 3 pieces to human motivation in general, at least from the research that Dr. Ramani points to. And how these break down is very different depending on what culture you're a part of. Unfortunately, it looks like Americans are perceived and possibly are the most narcissistic culture. I think this is because if you look at those 3 pieces of motivation, affiliation, belonging, achievement, and power, our culture as Americans is really based off of the latter 2. A lot of that has to do with achievement, and a lot of that has to do with power. And so a lot of our motivation boils down to those 2 things. Whenever I've lived outside of the States in other cultures, there's a much bigger emphasis placed on community, placed on family, placed on religion, placed more on affiliation, groups of people being more kind of a part of a thing, rather than this individualistic bent that I think that we have as Americans. I know that they're out there. How do I identify these people? Great question. What Dr. Ramani does is break these different narcissists into different categories. As soon as I describe these to you, you're going to know exactly who I'm talking about. Out of the first 5 subtypes of narcissist, the first one is the easiest one to know. That's the classic. Fancy watches, needs a lot of validation, is super grandiose, very insecure, always talking themselves up. This is a person that is so self-obsessed you could spot them from a mile away. I'm not going to belabor this point. You know plenty of these people, so do I. They're classic. 2, the malignant narcissist. This is, to me, probably one of the most dangerous. These are people that are often great in politics. These are the people who have a very slippery sense of morals. They're going to manipulate people to get what they want from behind the scene. These are people that understand the real inner workings of human behavior and then twist the knife and manipulate others, kind of play puppeteer in order to get where they want to go or for their own self-interest. 3rd are the covert narcissist. And I think these are fascinating. These are people that feel like they're forgotten geniuses. These are the ones that they share a lot of the grandiose narcissism traits, but they don't exhibit them in the same way. They might be more shy. They might be more socially awkward. And the way that they exert power over people is through their intellect. These people get off on making sure that you know that you're wrong, on correcting you, on letting you know that how right they are. These are often people that feel like they're misunderstood and that they are vulnerable, but they still feel grandiose in their own head. The 4th type, this is the communal narcissist. This is the one that Dr. Ramani says in the book is always like jet setting to Africa to like go build a well, or go to Latin America to go build a school. These are people that love to revel in how good they are. And they really want you to acknowledge them for how good they are too. These are people that really like to post on Instagram about all of the things they're doing for everybody else. Their kind of goal is to become like a living saint. So their sense of validation isn't so much look at me because of my watch or something. This is look at me because of all these things that I've given to everybody else. And I love this one because these people get on my nerves so much. These are my favorite type of people because it's all about how they're helping others. But a real telltale sign about a communal narcissist is their personal one-on-one relationships are terrible. Like they'll be terrible to their boyfriend or girlfriend. They make a terrible friend because they're always about parading about how good they are. And then they're actually just terrible people in their personal lives. And they're the hardest to spot. You don't want to believe that they're a narcissist, but you can tell when people are doing things genuinely out of a good place compared to just wanting acknowledgement. The last type of narcissist is the benign narcissist. These are people that just have kind of a general lack of awareness of how other people are feeling. So this is the mom, for example, who might not ask how you're feeling, but ask what you're wearing. You know, she's worried more about your appearance than what's going on with you behind the scenes or what's going on at school. This one might be the guy who's like the life of the party, but he says just ridiculous stuff and has kind of he lacks a filter. You know who I'm talking about? They're relatively harmless. They can still be hurtful, but they often are people that lack an awareness of how other people are feeling and just say stupid stuff. I say stupid stuff too, but hurtful, stupid stuff without even realizing it. How do you deal with narcissists in your life? Unfortunately, from the research that I looked at from the book, it looks like this is not something that is actually curable. People can be aware that they're a narcissist, but because they're hypersensitive, it's often very difficult for them to hear that and to understand that. So the best way that you can deal with narcissism is to make sure that you learn how to recognize it and then remove yourself, or at least defend yourself in your own way. So what does this look like? One of the big pieces to avoid narcissists affecting you is to stay connected with friendships and with people that make you feel good. It shows the people that have weak relationships, it negatively affects their life as much as smoking or working night shifts. It can have like a real physical detriment. So 1, stay connected. 2, a big piece that Dr. Amani talks about is don't forgive, but let go. So forgiveness you can do in your own time, but if they are a true narcissist, they will take advantage of your forgiveness and you'll find yourself kind of in this cyclical loop. So that means you can forgive in your own time, but don't give them your kindness too easily. And don't forget and learn how to let go. This might be the hardest part. One of my best friends right now, I think she's personally dating a narcissist, and it really kills me to see her fall back into the cycle over and over again. But Dr. Amani talks about if you give someone a nice vase and they drop it and shatter it, it's going to be a while before you give them another nice vase. Unfortunately, with our kindness and our forgiveness, we end up giving them nice vases and they just shatter it over and over again. So if you think they might be a narcissist, forgive, don't forget, and learn how to let go. The last 2 pieces on how to deal with a narcissist are 1, don't get into the mud with them. They lack a sense of awareness, often of empathy. Don't get into the weeds or an argument with a narcissist. Respond with yes, no, okay, or thank you. Because as soon as you get into the weeds, these are the people you can spend all day texting and they'll just send you large blocks of text, and no matter what your excuse is, they're just going to keep ranting and raving. And there's no actual way to win that argument. And so the best way that you can do this is remove them from your life. Don't fight fire with fire when it comes to dealing with a narcissist. That won't work. Your best tactic in this is to be respectful, be kind to them, be kind to yourself, and remove yourself from the situation or the relationship. The last piece of this is the practice of love. If you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, chances are you might be a little emotionally battered and bruised, and that might take time to get over. A lot of times leaving that partner or that spouse will sow a lot of doubt and you'll really want to go back to them. The key to this is know your worth. Know that there are people who will love you for you, that you are enough. This is not the last relationship. This is not the last time that you will have a shot at love. Take some time to do that, especially if you're going to go through a breakup or realize that you need to create distance between an old friend or family member for yourself. Realize that this is in your best interest and that that's what's most important. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, this was Kia's definitive guide to narcissism. What, why, who, and how. I hope that was helpful. Speaking of narcissism, I need all of the fame and the attention I can get. Please smash all the buttons, like, subscribe, leave a comment below, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks again for tuning in. Peace.